everyone, happy Friday. So today I am coming at you from my husband's truck because it's quiet. You hear that? It's quiet. So many times my videos are, my house is just loud. Like it's never going to be quiet. So anyways, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do a little bit in the truck today. So today is Friday, and that is the day that I'm answering the large family question. So this week's large family question is, what is the best thing about having a large family, and what is the hardest thing about having a large family? So to keep things positive, I'm going to go with what's the best thing about having a large family first. The best thing about having a large family to me is that they have built-in best friends. That is one of my biggest prayers and hopes, is that my kids are always close and always see each other as their best friend. And we actually talk about this a lot with our family, even when, things are rough and kids are arguing. I speak to them about, I'm like, now, this is your best friend. Your sister is going to be there forever. Friends can come and go, but your siblings are always going to be there. And so it's one thing that I really hope to instill in my kids. Because sometimes, families don't always grow up to keep in touch and stuff like that. And that is one of my biggest prayers. And so far, they are very close. They do a lot of things together.
On Sunday morning, the warm sun came up and popped out of the egg.
Okay, one of the other things that I really like, and this can kind of be overwhelming as well, is that there is literally never a dull moment. With 9 kids, there is something always going on. Back on Jackson's birthday, which was at the end of April, we had his birthday. My husband happened to have a root canal that day. And I'm trying to think of how old. Harper's almost 2. Harper fell down and split her chin open, and I had to take her to the ER for stitches. Now, yes, all that is overwhelming, but I'm just saying that there's never a dull moment. There's always a lot going on. Over the summer, Addison was doing her summer internship with our church. Payton was doing horse camp, and we had a couple other things, kids going in different directions. Yes, it's overwhelming. Yes, that's also kind of hard, but I also love it. I don't know, I like to be busy, so, and it always cracks me up that whenever we have these absolutely crazy moments, that my husband and I will sit down and we're like, okay, so this is what has to get done, and then we kind of have a powwow of how to figure it all out. I don't know, I like it. One of the other things that I really like is we are a force, meaning when we all work together, we can get something done in a fraction of the time. And this is only the beginning, because we still have a lot of little kids. So whenever all the kids are older, we're going to be able to do a lot, meaning a house project. I like projects. My love language is acts of service, y'all. So doing things is what kind of motivates me. But doing yard work, we can pick up our yard in 30 minutes. We have a big yard. It just doesn't take that long, to where if it was just me or just me and my husband, it would take us a long time. I just really like that. Cleaning the house. I showed in a video of, how we keep the house clean. It really doesn't take us that long now because we have so many hands to get stuff done. I don't know. I just kind of like that. On that note about being a force and trying to, we can get a lot done, I also think about that in terms of ministry, where we can serve, our community, serve in our church. I know that God's going to lead us in an area like this more whenever we have a little bit older children. And that really excites me, that we can do a lot for the kingdom of God. Another thing that's good about having a large family is we never hear the words, "I'm bored." Very rarely. I didn't really realize this till I had a friend who had a son the same time that I had our oldest, and she was talking to me. She's like, it's just hard to keep him entertained and constantly do stuff. And I was like, I don't really have that problem because they all have a buddy to play with. The next thing is, as I said in our video of why we have a large family, this wasn't an accident. My husband and I planned to have a large family, and one of the things that we always talked about, and we still do talk about a lot, it's more something that my husband will remind me on the days that I'm overwhelmed and just don't know how I'm going to get all this stuff done, is we think of the future. We think of when we're empty nesters. Yes, it's a long ways away, but we love the idea of having a full house, hence the name. We love the idea of whenever our kids are married and we have grandchildren. I mean, with 9 kids, when each one of them are married, that's 18 people just right there. That's a lot of people. Plus my husband and I, so that's 20. And then grandkids. It's like if our kids only had 2 or 3 kids each, that's a lot of grandkids. And that just, I can't even tell you how much that fills my heart. It just really excites my husband and I. And I talk to him like my dream, because I'm like, we don't have a dining room big enough for this many people. I want him to build, my husband isn't a builder, but I make all these ideas. I want him to build a long like picnic table, or even just a long table, and we can just have random chairs outside, and like I want a pavilion over it. like I want us all to sit at a table. So anyways, these are just silly little things that we think about and talk about that just kind of excite us for the future of our family. And that's just, honestly, we talked about this before we even had one kid. It's just the things that we were excited about that would come from having a large family. Okay, now what is the hardest part of having a large family? Okay, I had kids so fast and so close together that by the time I had our third, our oldest was 26 months old. So I had a 2-year-old, a 1-year-old, and a newborn. And I very vividly can remember, and this still happens, it doesn't happen as often, where all 3 kids needed me. And they're all 3 crying. And I would just sit on the floor and hold all 3 of them to the best that I could. And a lot of times my go-to was to read a story, because it just always seems to calm, fussy children down. And we would read stories. But that would be overwhelming to have 3 kids on top of you crying.
In this tiny seed, press it down and count to 3. Yeah, say 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
Alright, wiggle your fingers to add some.
So to add some encouragement, if you only have small children, it does get easier. Having only little kids, you're kind of in what we call the trenches, and it is hard. It's very hard. These years are so important because we're fostering those relationships, and we are training them to end up becoming a great helpmate. Now I have, a 13-year-old, a 12, almost 12-year-old, almost 11-year-old, and Jackson's 9. And they are great helpers, even with the little ones. Even Miley, who's 7, is a great helper with the little ones. So just remember that if you only have small children, is that these years are important and they are hard, but it does get easier. Okay, the next thing that's the hardest is when you get asked the same question 5 or 6 times, like in a 30-minute period. Now, this isn't the kids' fault. This is more of a patience issue with me and my husband. Say, what's for dinner? A kid comes in, what's for dinner? And you tell them Italian chicken. And then another kid leaves, or that kid leaves, and another kid comes in, hey Mom, what's for dinner? And usually, I'm fine with the second time that it's asked. But the third time, I'm like, and then I just will yell throughout, hey guys, everybody, we are having Italian chicken for dinner. So I don't keep having people come in and ask me. Now, again, this isn't the kid's fault, because it's that kid's only time asking that question. But it's the 5th or 6th or 7th time that I'm hearing it.
Mom, what's for dinner tonight?
Italian chicken.
Hey Mom, what's for dinner?
Italian chicken.
Okay. What's for dinner?
What's for dinner? We're having chicken.
Okay, along the same lines of being asked what's for dinner, if anything is out of like our normal routine, or if they hear a part of a conversation that we're going to do this, or somebody's coming over, or whatever, it's the same thing. Kids are, what are we doing? What's going on? Huh? And then, we'll kind of answer that question. And then, another kid will come in and they'll tell, or this kid will tell that kid, and they have to come in and ask us the same thing, and we're just like, that is really hard. It's kind of silly to talk about it, but it's really hard and overwhelming. And this is why I think a lot of large families have a family meeting, And we have got to get better with that because it's not the kids' fault that, you know, they're just curious about what's going on. But we've got to get better with that. Okay, one of the other hardest parts is the messes for me. As I have said before, I like having a clean house, and I have had to let go a lot of those expectations. You know, my house isn't going to be perfect. We live in our house, and I don't want it to be perfect because I want my kids to be able to play freely in the house and create and do all those things. But the messes are pretty overwhelming, and that's where I can kind of lose my temper some, is we have just cleaned up the playroom. But when you have 5 kids going in there playing, you know, it's just going to be a disaster. It just is. I mean, we obviously have to teach them to clean up and all these things, but that's one of the hard things for me. Another hard thing, laundry, y'all. Enough said. One of the other hard things that I do think about, I try not to dwell on it because I don't want to live in fear, is in case of an emergency. Say the house catches on fire. I am one person. I cannot scoop up all my children in my arms and run out of the house. And that is hard to think about. Or say we happen to be in some sort of a flood or something like that, you know, natural disaster. I think about those things. A bad car accident. I can't get to all of them at the same time. And my husband and I have talked about this, and I'm like, well, what would we do? And he had a very well thought out plan because that's the way that his brain works, a little bit better than mine. And he's like, well, you would get the younger ones first because they can't help themselves. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. But it's like, I also have to make sure that my older kids are okay too. That's one thing that's really kind of hard to let set in. But I don't, again, want to live in fear because God is our provider, and God, if anything like that happens, I do believe in the supernatural powers that somehow I'm going to be able to help all my children to be more instinctively than anything that I could sit out and write a plan for. You know what I'm saying? I'm sitting here at the pool now, and I was thinking of another hard thing, so I'm going to add it. It's loud, y'all. It's loud. My kids are loud. And the younger ones are even louder because they have to talk over people. It's so loud.
I need a boat on. And I can swim in the shower without my clothes.
Yep. Okay, so hopefully I didn't have too many hard things over the better things. I think I did. But those aren't like super hard things, like in order to not have a bunch of kids, I guess. Anyways, I hope that this blessed you. If it did, please give this video a thumbs up, and we would love to have you subscribe to our channel and join us along our journey, and we hope that you have a blessed day. Thanks.